Who needs a low-noise floor these days anyway? It is so overrated. Welcome to QRM.
From the N0 APX Ham Shack in southwestern Missouri, and today, Orlando, Florida, I'm Andy N0 APX with Jim N4BFR, and this is QRM. Today, our special guest is Marvin, W0MET, from the Winter Field Day, and we're going to be getting into a Winter Field Day recap today, kind of covering some of the statistics and how Winter Field Day went down this year. Great to have you on, Marvin.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for inviting us over here, and looking forward to this episode. This is going to be great.
Absolutely. All right. So I think we're going to get into kind of how this year stacks up against some previous years, how many participants we had. I think you even have some stats you're going to share with us on the video portion of this podcast. So that'll be great to see. Other than that, we have a couple of things we want to recap from the last episode, and then we'll have some personal updates and some company updates for y'all. So let's go ahead and get on into it. So this week from World Radio League, we have quite a few new updates. We've got cat control we've released. We've released a new band conditions widget that's available in the website and in the mobile app. And we've got a new activities section of the website. So that's I'm sorry, we've got a new analytics section of the website. I put the wrong title in here. That is so you can look at your stats as far as countries worked. You can work towards some new awards we've added, some DX awards, some 50 states awards, and with our system, you get an award when you reach the 50 states or the 100 DX, and you also get an award when you confirm 50 states or 100 DX. So really excited there with some of the new things. Yeah, go ahead,
I got
Jim.
2 halfway awards, too. I got 2 halfway awards in my logbook. So
yeah,
I got
awesome.
I'm 25 states, 50 DX. I'm very excited about that.
Oh yeah, that's
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah, we've got some shorter milestone awards in there as well. So go check out the new analytics section of the page. With our cat control desktop app, we've also added some integrations. WSJTX. You can stream your contacts straight from WSJTX into World Radio League. So when the little pop-up window pops up in WSJTX, you click log QSO. You can, if you've started the listener, you can send that straight over to your World Radio League logbook. And also N1MM, N3FJP, we've integrated those as well. So if you start the listener on there and you've got the N1MM or N3FJP configured properly, then that as you log contacts, they'll just stream straight into your logbook. So some really exciting things happening on the content side. We've got two brand new videos. We've got a How to POTA Part 1, which is the activating side. We've got that one released, and then James did a POTA activation. Recorded just the activation from start to finish. Him and his wife went out to a beautiful park out there in Georgia and had a really, really nice video. That one came out really well. So go check those out. They're on YouTube. Take a look at those. Jim, what's going on in ham radio prep world?
You know, a lot of what we've been focused on over the last couple of days is Orlando Hamcation. This video come out after it, but we're there now, and we're having a great time meeting people and talking to students. We're hearing a lot of success stories. So people are coming by, hey, you got me your general. Hey, I got my tech because of you. And we're helping people kind of move on to the next thing, whether it's, moving up to extra or helping to get family members engaged, those kind of things. So it's a lot of fun. The other thing that I think has been interesting is we've definitely talked to a couple of groups who are like, I want to do a ham cram. I want to be a trainer. How can we use your stuff to get people involved in person and stuff? So I think that's an opportunity for us, and we're going to talk about that and work on that as we go forward. The other thing awesome. Working on when we're back in the studio is an expansion of ham radio basics. So if you don't know, we had a course called Baofeng Basics for the longest time, and last fall We switched that over to call it Ham Radio Basics. We've expanded the number of radios you can learn to program there, and we've expanded the information to kind of get your beak wet a little bit to understand what some of these things are, like HF operating or satellite operating, those kind of things. So we put some placeholder content in there to start. We're working on updating that as we go along. So right now there's a Morse code lesson and a satellite lesson that are both in progress. The Morse code lesson will probably come out in the next couple of weeks. And looking forward to seeing that and helping people understand where they can go and just kind of a little bit of how Morse code works. So sounds like a lot of fun, and hopefully people will get some interest in that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you guys have been down there in Orlando. I wasn't able to make it this year,
Yes.
but forgot to mention that right off the bat. I think we said you guys were in Orlando, but we didn't specify why. So yeah, Hamcation's going on this weekend. As of this recording, it will have already happened by the time this thing is out. But James is down there as well, isn't he? He's down there for advocating for World Radio League.
Yep. So James is here, and we're kind of tag teaming. I'm doing the ham radio prep updates. He's doing the World Radio League updates, and he is as busy as can be. A ton of people are just really interested in the next generation logger. He did a presentation on Friday that talked about it a little bit as a forum, and it was kind of funny because it looked like as he was coming back from the presentation, he had like little duckies following him of people who wanted to come and get more information and ask him more questions. So really a lot of engaged people on the World Radio League logger. That's very excited to see.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear. Sounds like there's. Do you know how big the crowd is this year at Hamcation?
They haven't given us any numbers yet. I feel like it was bigger than last year so far, but I've got just my limited perspective of the booth and the people that go by me, so I can't really tell for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great to hear, Marvin. I think you're down there in Orlando too. What's your experience been down there so far?
Good. I think this has been a great Hamcation overall. I have not had a chance to get up to any of the forums. I kind of, if I can mention, I've got my own podcast called The Ham Radio Guy that I do. And I've been going around and meeting with several different vendors and talking to some of them. And, it seems like there's a lot of new vendors this year that are visiting Hamcation. They've had some amateur radio products out or some they're fairly new into the amateur radio world. And they are here at Hamcation for the very first time. So that's very exciting. There's some bandpass filters. Another guy that does a WX grid book. He's here for the very first time as just two examples. And so it seems like a lot of people are saying the numbers are down just a little bit. It was 4 o'clock today, and a lot of the places were, a lot of people had cleared out by today on Saturday here being the second day. So felt like, some of the vendors were saying that even some of the food vendors are saying they're maybe down about 10% overall, but it's been a great Hamcation. The weather's been beautiful. If you're up in the northern part of the country in the Northeast where they're about to get hammered, it's a perfect place to be right now weather-wise. And so I love that, and it's always a nice little winter getaway. And I picked up a few trinkets and stuff here and there myself, a few things that I was kind of looking at or been wanting to get for a little while. So there's some new radios on display from Kenwood. The 7760 from ICOM's out there. So there's a few new things around there too with some of the more bigger vendors. But overall, I think it's been a great show, and again, the weather, and it's always good to come down and get food and stuff. So I can't complain. And I think I did a little interview with James today, real quick. Talking about World Radio League, and they'll be coming out very soon on my channel as well. So that Kenwood's going to be pretty cool, isn't it, Jim?
That Kenwood mobile radio looked really good. So they've got a nice APRS D-Star mobile radio that they're working on that I think will be as good as the TH75D handheld is. So should be a lot of fun.
Nice. What's the model number on
Jim,
that one?
The 750A, is that correct? I think D750A, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
And then is that a tri-bander too?
I believe it is.
Jim, do you remember if that's a tri-bander?
I'm going to look it up.
It is. Yeah. So Yeah.
Trevor.
I'm 90% sure it is. I'm
I'm
looking it
pretty
up
sure it
right
is
now.
too. So, uh,
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
You can share maybe your a screenshot of it if you have one there whenever you find it.
TM
But so
750A.
okay.
TM750A. Do you have a picture of it? We can drop in here. You can even drop a link in the show notes and we can put a picture up right
Um,
here.
okay, I'll do that.
Okay. All right. And then so Marvin, do you have a booth set up down there? Are you on the floor? Or?
Nope, just been out on the floor. I also, my brother W4OPS, we are both on with you guys for Winter Field Day. He runs the Poto booth, a booth called Ham Stuff Online. And so I've been helping him out in that booth as well. He has a couple other people from the Poto obviously help him out with that, but he's very busy with that. And it's nice for him to, I think anybody who's a vendor, it's always nice to step away for a few minutes and be able to go explore and see things as well for yourself. So when he wanted a break or two, I'd try and break him in between. So other than that, I'm just here on my own and just like I said, running a lot of things from the Ham Radio Guy podcast and doing just kind of visiting with the vendors and trying to see what's out there and what's new in the world and keeping my listeners and stuff on my podcast informed as well. So like you guys have a lot of good stuff and good content that it's definitely worth for those new people that are maybe just getting into podcasting or amateur radio that you give them those new tools that they need to be interested in as well. And that's kind of along the same lines of what I do. So it's cool to join you guys on this and the World Radio League logger. It's a game changer for in the logging world, I believe. So
We appreciate that, and we're very, very glad you were able to come on with us tonight. Took a little bit of planning and change of plans and scheduling and rescheduling, but we got it together. So glad we were able to
we're
do
on
that.
here. We're making this happen. Absolutely.
So,
That's right.
so you said W4OPS is your brother?
That's correct. Yep.
I
So
did
you
not.
know
I
him
did not know
apparently.
that. He reached out to me the other day, and I did not realize he was your brother. I'm glad to make that connection. That's great.
Yeah, he's about 40 miles from where you're at. He's working in Springfield right now for a guy
Nice.
called John Harris doing public safety stuff, rebuilding some
Okay.
trucks and things like that. So yeah, that's him. He runs Ham Stuff Online, and we kind of run Winter Field Day in the back end together. So
Nice. That's fantastic. So,
absolutely.
just a little rat hole here. I know that MFJ has kind of gone out of business. Do you know if are they selling any equipment at least their manufacturing, I think, ended. Are they selling
We
any equipment there?
so we in our ham radio prep booth, we're right across from MFJ last year, and we're in the same booth this year. And where they used to have 16 tables is now some other stuff, including an amplifier dealer.
Yep.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
there's no sign of MFJ here.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's something they had a lot of equipment. It's something to see them kind
Oh,
of
for
disappear
sure.
like that.
Yep.
But
No
anyway,
doubt.
yeah. So yeah. So did you guys bring any radios with you down there? Have you done any operating in Orlando?
I brought my
And we can.
handheld. I was going to try and maybe make a WinLink connection. There's a couple gateways not far from where I'm at
Yeah.
here, so that's one of my
Yeah.
goals yet tonight. I was hoping to
Yeah.
make that in the Poto booth today, but there were just so many people there in that Poto booth. It was just absolutely just packed all times. In
Yeah.
fact, they had to go out and get a separate tent. I had to get another tent to add onto the Poto booth because they run out of space because so many people are gathered around it. So it's a huge
Wow.
outdoor event. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I'm hoping to make a WinLink
I
contact
was
with my handheld yet tonight. So.
Nice.
Thursday, I got invited out. On my way down, I stopped. There was a POTA activation that was a big group. There were probably 30 people there when I was there at
Nice.
11 in the morning.
Nice.
And I know people were coming and going all day. I took a handheld and made a few contacts, and hopped on somebody's HF for a little bit. So I got to log in, and I got it into the World Radio League log. Love the fact that I could just open up an app and start logging on my phone while I was walking around. So that was super helpful there. Just a little plug over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, and we can we'll have some personal updates later, and we can cover some more of that. Oops, bumped my microphone. We can cover some more of that here in a bit. But anyway, we're going to take a break right quick, and have our sponsorship ads here, and then once we get back, Marvin, we're going to jump right into the main topic here and start talking with you about the Winter Field Day recap. Actually, before we go to break, I think Jim had some updates from the last episode. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so QRM episode number 1, we spent talking about Fram to Ham, and I just wanted to give a couple of updates. That's the mission. The Fram 2 mission is the space mission that's going to use a Dragon capsule to go around in polar orbit, and there's going to be a ham radio element to that. And Eris is doing the consulting on that. In order to support that mission is scheduled to go sometime in March, but in order to support the SSTV element of that, Eris is going to do a special SSTV event starting February 13th through the 17th. So it's going to be, unlike previous Eris events, it'll be lower power transmissions, and it'll be on 440 megahertz, so people can practice their Doppler changes and set their antennas and those kind of things to more match what's going to happen during the Fram 2 event. So go to eris.org, and right on the main page, just scroll down and you'll be able to read all about what's going on with this Fram 2 ham experiment.
Nice. That's fantastic. And if you have any questions about what Fram 2 ham or Eris or any of that is, just go check out QRM episode 1. We went into great detail there and had a lot of fun doing it. So go check out QRM episode number 1 if you have any questions there. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back and jump into Winter Field Day recap. So stay tuned. This episode of the QRM podcast is brought to you by Ham Radio Prep. With extensive video and text courses for all U.S. amateur license levels, Ham Radio Prep is the best way to study for your license. Their unique bite-sized approach makes lesson retention faster and easier than ever. Sign up today at hamradioprep.com. This episode is also brought to you by World Radio League. Whether you're a brand new ham or a seasoned operator, World Radio League is the right logbook for you. Striking the balance between functionality and ease of use, World Radio League is the modern logbook for all hams. Sign up for free today at worldradioleague.com. We are back, and we're going to jump right into the main topic here. Winter Field Day 2025. We had a lot of fun operating. I think I logged 101 contacts. I was not one of the top finishers, of course, but I kind of was a very casual operator and had a lot of fun. So we of course partnered with you guys this year. We have a couple of videos on that on our YouTube channel, and we can get into some of the stats later on how that came out. We have some pretty good stats of our own as far as membership increases and that kind of thing over Winter Field Day. We had kind of a big burst of new signups there, so that was a lot of fun to see that. But let us know what's kind of general statistics. What are you seeing this year so far?
So. Year over year, we've been monitoring the number of clubs that will participate, the number of people registering on our site for Winter Field Day sites. We look at the number of logs being submitted, the number of QSOs being made, and we also look at calls being claimed. And that means that there was, I'll just throw a general number out there, 17,000 different call signs were used within the Winter Field Day event over that 24, or now it'll be 30 hours. And so, we've had an increase, an uptick in those numbers, pretty significant this year. I've not looked at, I'll call it percentages yet, because we still are within, between now and March 1st, they have a lot of time to submit their logs. And we've had, a few out of, I'll say, the 2,149 logs submitted so far. I can probably say I have less than 50 that people have had errors with or some issues with of some sort. That number is probably actually less than 30. So, there's always a few that might have an error, and someone could have put O instead of a 0 on, something for outdoors. But overall, we've had some really good numbers come through this year, and we can talk about them whenever you want to do that. I've got them handy here, but we've had a really positive review from everybody overall in Winter Field Day this year. We have when you do submit your log, we have a soapbox and we can go through and review all those comments, and we do go through and read those comments, and that is how some of the changes that we make from year to year really take place because of people's suggestions and ideas. We kind of create our own, I'll call it Excel spreadsheet that kind of lists out some of the things that we saw that we need to improve on, or one example this year was we did the new multiplier, and it was you get 6 point, or you have a 6 point multiplier for doing 6 hours of outdoor, or you might have or working 6 different bands. You had another one for making a satellite contact, working deploying more 2 antennas. You get like another 2 points. You had a total of 26 multiplier points you could essentially get. So if you made 100 contacts and you did all the 20 or all the different objectives, you had a capability of taking your 100 contacts, let's say, and multiplying that by the 26 and making 2,600 points for, we'll call it simple math here on the podcast, because I don't do math over the air otherwise, because there were some more points for making digital versus single contacts as well, or single side band. But, again, for simple math, 2,600 points, and that turned out to be, something that someone could potentially achieve. But at the same time, if they didn't do any objectives, but they made 100 contacts because they didn't do any objectives, they end up with a score of 0, because you take 100 times 0, you get 0. So we missed that a little bit in our mathematics and calculations. And we didn't realize that until it was kind of like a day or two beforehand. It's like, oops. So we'll correct that for next year. We'll get that squared away. If you're listening to this and you've got Winter Field Day and you participate, you submit a log and you didn't do any objectives, then you're still going to get your points and contacts for doing 100. Your points for doing 100 contacts. Don't think you're going to end up with 0 as a score. You won't. So we will correct that on our back end now, but we'll have to make sure that is taken care of for next year. It's just one of our examples.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say
that.
That's
good news for me, Marvin.
It's funny you say that. We were like, cramming on development on our end, trying to get everything together. And we realized something was wrong with our scoring. And I think that's exactly one of the problems that we had, was that we were counting the 0 multipliers as a multiplier. So we had to go back, make sure we had all that logic done correctly for our leaderboards.
So you guys did get that corrected on the World Radio League side then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
before,
Gotcha.
before,
We'll have to correct it on our side as well. So, but yeah, it was just one of those prime examples of something we didn't catch. We didn't see it until it was too late, and we weren't out there doing the math on it. It's like, okay, we were always using someone. We were anticipating somebody always doing a objective of some sort, which would give them a multiplier. And so, and we'd always use like something more greater than 2. So if you just did, 100 times 1, it's like, okay, that didn't work. But we, I don't think we had anything at 1 point either, if I can recall correctly. But anyway, we just didn't count on anybody not doing an objective. So thank you guys for catching it in the back end there of your side as well.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of funny.
We had one logic issue after everything was all done. Of course, you always find that one issue after it's over. And
yep.
So if you worked a station on the same mode but across different bands, it's likely that we flagged it as a duplicate in our system due to a misunderstanding between the production team and the development team. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding there as far as how the logic worked. So if those got flagged as dupes in your World Radio League leaderboard, those will not be flagged as dupes on when you get your score back from the Winter Field Day team. And we plan on running a correction across those duplicates before the submission deadline. So you'll still get the correct score showing up in your leaderboard before the submission deadline, and of course the Winter Field Day team will get you the correct score anyway. So we discovered that issue after it was all over. Yeah.
So quick question, if a listener is listening, it's like, okay, I've got a dupe in there, but I've already submitted my log over to the Winter Field Day team. Will that make a difference?
No. It'll still be
Okay.
included in the ADIF file, and so
Okay.
it still exports along with the rest of them. It'll just be flagged as a dupe, and the points will be discounted in our system, but it still exports in your ADIF file, and Winter Field Day team will get that calculated correctly. We're going to run a recalculation on any of those issues here in the coming few days, and it'll correct in our system
Okay.
as well.
I just kind of want to make sure that we had that
Yeah.
for any
Oh, yeah.
listeners
Oh,
that
yeah.
might have had any
Oh, yeah,
confusion
yeah,
around
yeah.
that. So that they've already submitted the
Absolutely.
log
No,
potentially.
yeah.
That okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, you've got all your contacts. We just had an incorrect piece of logic there, but we'll fix that on our end. You've still got all your contacts. You still get all your points. So,
Absolutely, great, great,
yeah,
good
all
to
right,
hear.
yeah, absolutely. So, I know you have some statistics there. Before we get into those, what is the log submission deadline? When do operators need to have their logs submitted by?
March 1st at midnight. So
March
basically
1st at midnight.
from so whatever it's February 28th, 29th. I don't think this is the leap year, but so it must be the 28th. But at midnight that night before it goes into March 1st, it has to be submitted by then. I think we usually give people, it was the 25th and 26th of January when, Winter Field Day occurred. And so, we give them a little over a month to be able to do that. And I know there's still many logs that I've spoken with people here at Hamcation that are still submitting their logs when they get back home. And they're doing some combining of some of the different, people that maybe participate and trying to put those all together in one log. And I understand that could take some time. So, we try to give people plenty of time to be able to do that.
Okay, yeah, and that's I'm assuming that's Zulu time. That's UTC time. So
Um,
don't wait until midnight your local time to do it. Get it in ahead of time.
yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Zulu. I'll have to go back. I mean, just go back and check the
Yeah,
website too. It
yeah,
is in the
yeah,
rules there.
yeah,
I think it could be just midnight
absolutely.
Eastern, but I'm pretty sure that's the Zulu time that we run
Yeah,
everything off
yeah.
because that's how we
Okay.
base it off of the starting and ending of Winter Field Day. So
Nice. Okay.
absolutely.
So yeah, go ahead if you don't mind. Go ahead and share your screen here, and let's take a look at some stats.
Yeah,
I'll make
let's see if
sure
I can
this
get that up here.
video is configured correctly to see it all. But yeah, go ahead and share your
Let me see if I can
there.
pull that up in a share screen. I think I get some permissions going here in a window.
Oh yeah, you're good. So do you have you heard any stories of anybody operating in any really severe wintry conditions, or was it do you get a lot of feedback like that, or what was the
I don't know of any big stories right offhand where anybody's really got caught in any storm or had any issues like that or any emergencies came up, but nothing that I've been made aware of. I know a lot of people
okay?
went out and operated on the ice, and they were very excited about
Yeah,
that. It's been it's
nice.
been a colder winter
Yeah.
across the board, I think, and so a lot of people had the opportunity to do that. And I know a lot of people mentioned that for the first time, like, man, first time in 5 years we've been able to get out and operate on the ice, and we're so excited about it. And so it
That's
was
great.
pretty
That's
cool that people
great.
are just operating from ice huts out in the lake, and they're just going at it, for 24 hours.
Yeah,
So it's great.
absolutely. All right, well, we got your
But
stats pulled up here, so
you can see the screen here.
let's
So
dive in.
this is our kind of
Yeah.
some of our back end that you don't normally see from our side. And so as you can see, in 2024 we had about 667, and we're up to 738 clubs submitted so far. And our locations, we had 1,394 registered this year. Very excited about that for using our Winter Field Day map. And people, I'm going to reiterate that here real quick is. Why we ask you to go out and register on these sites every year after year is because people want to come find out where a Winter Field Day site might be close to them, be able to go visit. I use it as a resource to go say, hey, what clubs or club do I want to go visit this year for Winter Field Day myself that might be close to me within an hour or two driving distance. Try and get in contact with that club ahead of time, let them know I'm coming, and so it's going to be used for a lot of tools. Maybe a technician or somebody is just wanting to get into ham radio, or maybe someone just got their general license and they heard about this Winter Field Day event of some sort. So it's like, hey, what is this Winter Field Day thing? I want to go check it out. So they catch our website and they say, oh, there's a one that's just right down the road from me, or out at this local park. They're doing a Winter Field Day event with that local club. I'm going to go visit that. So it's a really useful tool. So we really appreciate people registering, and those numbers are incredible for us this year. Again, we're only day 8 here into February, and we're at 2,149 logs, so we're up quite a few from last year. What is most exciting about this is that the QSO score or points, I'm sorry, QSO contacts is up at 295,000. And so you
Wow.
can see where last year's was at. And
Wow.
in 2023, we had 292, and we got really close. I'm going, oh, we can do it this next year. And we had some setbacks a little bit last year. We changed some things. We had quite a bit of structure change because that was our second year into it. And we changed some things that I think a lot of people got kind of unnerved about and didn't like it because they kind of lost some bonus points and things like that. We went more objective based and got rid of the bonus points. And so that kind of steered some people away. But we've had so many positive comments this year about how our new structure was. And we brought those bonus points back labeled as objectives with points assigned to them. And I think that's really driven a lot of activity back to Winter Field Day, and so I think we're in the right forward direction, and we're going down the right path here with this event. And 295,000 again. I've still got over almost 20 days here, I guess, to be able to have people submit logs. So we're going to be over
Nice.
300,000 this year. I have
That's
no
awesome.
doubt. It is
That's
incredible. And
incredible.
then this is the biggest number as well for the number of call signs being used in Winter Field Day. They're unique, and that's 23,737. So just some absolutely
That's
phenomenal numbers that
incredible.
we have. Some great contacts across the board there being made through Winter Field Day. I think as we get into a little bit more in getting the log submissions done, I want to say in 2024, we had contact with 92 different DX entities. And so I don't know what that number is yet for this year. We've not
Wow.
broken that type of information down, but I had more people overseas. I want to say I had between about 25 and 30 known um, registered Winter Field Day sites that I'm aware of. And I've had some people even from, I believe it was Ireland, if I maybe it was Sweden, one of the two. I said, hey, we heard about this Winter Field Day bulletin thing. We couldn't copy it from over there. And we see that you have an objective for it. We want to try and do the Winter Field Day bulletin for you next year in Europe and make that transmission over there. So I think we're going to
Nice.
try and transmit that Winter Field Day
Wow.
bulletin over in Europe. And
That's
this is
awesome.
what really sets us apart from Summer Field Day is that we are open up globally, worldwide
Nice.
for Winter Field Day. And we
That's
have a
awesome.
lot of people
Marvin,
participating from around the world. Go
that
ahead,
brings
Jim.
up a question I had, Marvin. Is that if you had asked me a couple of years ago it and asked me what is Winter Field Day, I would say, well, it's Field Day for Australia because they're in the winter. Their winters, our winters, their summer, so this is when they do Field Day. But that's not it at all. How long has this been around, and how long have y'all been enjoying this?
So, a multifaceted question here. Um, Winter Field Day really started about 2007 with a group that was, I think it was out of the Pennsylvania, Ohio area, maybe on the border there somewhere. And it was the Society Preservation of Amateur Radio that really started it. And it was kind of a, hey, how about there's a summer field day. How about we do a winter field day? And like, so the club, approved it in like September. And so they started the planning activities and they started putting winter field day together. And then it kind of started growing a little bit more and more. And in 2015, about 7 years later, they had some issues and another group started to take it over. And they actually formed the Winter Field Day Association at that point to run the Winter Field Day event as a whole. And the I should think of the guy's call sign behind me, but that ran it prior to taking it over in 2022. He ran it for about 7 years again. And he kind of put out on Twitter, hey, I'm looking to, turn over Winter Field Day. Who would like to be able to take it? And I kind of said, hey, well, I'm happy to do that. And I said, let's have a chat sometime. So we called each other, talked to each other. And he said, well, let's, start set the 501c3 up and start doing all this. And we'll, we can release the funds. And you just got to promise you can't have FT4 and FT8 in there like its current state. And I said, okay, fine. And we made a few, gentlemen agreement handshakes. And so I took it over in 2022. And I've currently run that. It's a 501c3 recognized by the state of now Wisconsin. I initially started up in Tennessee where I lived. And when I moved to Massachusetts, I said, you know what? I've got a permanent residence also in Wisconsin. I'm going to keep it there. So no matter where I move to, that and Wisconsin obviously is a very cold state during the winter, most appropriate to hold the organization out of Wisconsin. So
Awesome.
that's where it's out of now. And I run that the 501c3. ICOM is one of our big sponsors. It does take some donations and stuff that we do get in through the year through PayPal to be able to run the organization. We have, storage, obviously database that we have to store information to be able to keep all these numbers and stats. We have a lot of data going back to 2013. It's not all completely accurate, and we can't pull the type of information completely that we have as of today. Because of just maybe some lost files and some information like that. But overall, we have a lot of the information in general. So we'd like to be able to, one of the big things, we'll come back to this in a minute, but I've got a lot of big changes that we'd like to be able to see here in 2025 and some things that we'll be doing that hopefully will continue to prove our back end and make some changes and make it easier for the, I'll call it end user or operator to be able to submit logs and look at our site as well. So
sounds good.
So you mentioned the earlier the bulletin. I think you're planning on sending that from. You said Europe next year. That's great. We're going to try and put that from Europe. Some of us who don't know exactly what the Winter Field Day Bulletin is. What is that?
So the Winter Field Day Bulletin was very similar to what the ARRL does during the summer in sending out a. I'll say in this case, theirs is probably I'll call it maybe a 10 to 12 minute message that's pretty lengthy overall, and this bulletin was transmitted in three different, or this message bulletin was transmitted in three different modes, and we kept it to about 3, maybe 4 sentences. Wanted to keep it very short. First of all, wanted to keep it very simple for people to read and understand. So it was transmitted in single sideband. It was transmitted in Olivia, and the reason we went to Olivia versus like the Summer Field Day will do RTTY is because Olivia is a very robust digital mode that can really get through some poor propagation at time. And so anyway, we used Olivia, and then we also did transmit it in CW, and it was by a group out of California that did the CW. So we're probably looking for somebody to do it a little bit more out of the East Coast next year as well for doing CW, because the everything's coming from California. So someone on the East Coast may have a little bit harder time copying that message. So I don't know if CW is copied quite as much, but we'll try and transmit it a few more different places. We were out of Alabama, Colorado, and Ohio this time. So it kind of made a nice little triangle, if I could say, in the central of the United States, and getting those messages communicated across on 10, 15, 20, and 40 is what we did it on.
Nice.
So
okay. So what kind of a reception did you see to the objectives this year? Like how many stations completed those? How big was the? I know Winter Field Day is more than a contest necessarily. It's about getting out and operating and kind of checking off some of those objectives. So how did that go?
We probably really won't know some of that until we start doing some of the processing after March 1st. Just simply because we're getting the information into the logs and compiling that data and really having a couple of our back-end guys go through all that and read it. It's obviously going to take them a little bit more time to do it. If someone's listening to this podcast and they are a developer, I am looking for another one that has a lot of database back-end knowledge and that can run SQL or something like that. And so we are looking for another one to be able to help out with some of that, because it takes more than one person who also runs a full-time business to be able to do that. So, but we're hoping to get that out in a fairly quick turnaround. I know a lot of people may say, well, they were really poor with it in 2024. It's because I had one guy running it and not 3 or 4 people. And, obviously you guys know on your back end, it takes more than one person to be able to do that. So absolutely. So it's a lot of work and going through now even more logs and more contacts than we did before. So hopefully it won't quite take as long. We'll find somebody to help step in and do some of that, but we'll see where that
Absolutely.
goes. But I wish I could give you more information on that, what that looks like today. But again, we just won't know that until we get into it. So
I totally understand. Jim, did you start? Were you starting to say something there? Do you have a question?
I'm good at the moment. I'm looking forward to hearing more about success stories.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Is there, Marvin? Was there maybe one group that you saw, or a couple of groups that you saw out there that are like, wow, this is really what I envisioned when people went out to do Winter Field Day?
yes, I was just trying to think what
You mentioned the folks on the ice before.
I did, and I'm wanting to see if I could pull my guy in Discord from my conversation real quick, and I'm not obviously seeing my Discord channel on my iPad here next to me, but he was a 3 call. I think he was out of either Pennsylvania or New York. And anyway, he went out and made a little over, I think, 1,000 K3 KLB Cody, and he went out and did, I want to say, somewhere over a little over 1,000 some contacts, and he did it by himself, working in an ice shack. I basically like pulled his 4-wheeler out there and pulled out the ice shack and set it all up and made over 1,000 contacts for Winter Field Day, and just had a phenomenal setup with it overall. So I'm actually kind of hoping to pull him in a little bit myself to be able to talk about his process and how he went through and did that and how he ran for that many hours. And maybe just it was cold. It was up there. I mean, I woke up Winter Field Day morning. I think it was 2 degrees when I got in my truck and then drove for 2 hours to New Hampshire, where I operated with a club myself. And I didn't make a ton of contacts. I was doing like 24. Great. I did like 24 contacts myself, but I was playing around with that. Riddy and JSA call and doing WinLink and all these other things, and a little bit along the side and doing FL Digi, making sure kind of managing Winter Field Day from the back end as well, making sure that things were going off without a hitch and that we had everything in place. So it was a little bit of managing of that too. So that made it a little tough, but yeah.
So you mentioned some digital modes that you were working as you were going up, but you also mentioned earlier that no FT4, no FT8. Is there a story behind that?
I had a question about that myself. I was going to ask why. There's been a lot of talk in the community. FT4 and FT8 excluded. Some positive, some negative. What's the story behind that?
My gosh! So we get the scoop across that every year, and it never fails. People, love to hate us for it. So again, it was kind of, as I said back when I took over the organization, was that the gentleman's agreement was that we'd have no FT4 or FT8. And it's not that I use FT8 myself. I'm an avid user of it. I use it on a regular basis, weekly. So I have no biases against FT8. I have nothing against Joe Taylor or anybody else who's developed it. We enjoy that program ourselves, but it does not do the exchange because of its limited capability of capacity of characters, and it doesn't really pass emergency traffic. Yes, I can get a 5.9 or I get a -15 or -22, but if you want to really pass emergency type of message, I guess you could put, call 911 or something, but that really doesn't tell anybody where you're at or what's wrong or anything else that's going on. You have very limited capacity in what you can do. So, when you want to say, one home, Minnesota, I guess, again, it doesn't really pass any other information other than that. So we say if you can send, how do we put that? If you can actually send direct messages, then that program is allowed. Something like JSA call, something along the lines of, RIDI, any other FL Digis you can do for like Olivia or MS.
PSK31, things like that.
PSK31, things exactly. You can use those types of programs to pass a message. Those are allowed, and we can do that.
All right, that's it. Next Winter Field Day, I'm going to try slow scan TV.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because that is one of those things that I was having a little bit of a problem with this year, and this is I will give you the prime example why we do Winter Field Day. And Winter
Yes.
Field Day is about going out and testing your abilities to be able to run your equipment in what we say subpar conditions. And so everybody has that station that works at home, and you can send WeLink messages throughout the day, and you can get on there and make FT8 contacts and whole things yards. But when you pack that gear up and you go out into the field with it, you go to the trailer, you go to the park bench, you go to your mobile RV, you take it, whatever you do, and you set that equipment back up. It's Murphy's Law somewhere out there that says something's not going to work right. So I had bench tested, checked the programs, had all my cat cabling, I had everything in place. Everything was working fine. I tested it at home. I was making connections. I was making slow scan television images, and I had 7 or 8 of them, different ones created. I had some with the Winter Field Day logo on it. I thought this is going to be freaking cool. I'm doing slow scan television for Winter Field Day. So I get out. I have a 16-foot trailer. I made it into a little bit of a comms trailer this year. I got it insulated, had heat, had all my computers working, had all the stuff with me, had all my gear. It was fine. But then when I go to try to set the computer and the radio, the ICOM 705, to talk to my Mac and get it, I had the antennas, everything hooked up. I had all my cables. The radio would not talk to my computer, and so something was not jiving there for some reason. And I still haven't had time to go back and resolve that and figure out why it wasn't working. But again, I had it bench tested. I had it working at home. It was just fine. And I go out to the field, something's not right. So it's one of those things. I'm going to be creating some lessons learned from this. And this is what's great about this is lesson learned is, okay, if you're running a Yaesu F&T 991A, which I had running on the side, I also had the ICOM 705. And so if you're running 2 different radios like that, you may want to, and maybe you have a 7300 at home too or something. You want to go create a little cheat sheet that says, hey, maybe in settings, connectors, I need to be on connector A, whatever. I need this to be connected. I need this setting to be at 19200. And in the program, I need this to be set to data, USB, packet, none, 8 bits, 2 bits, whatever it might be, and have that cheat sheet available for you. So when you have to go change radios from one thing to the other, because you may be connecting to somebody else's radio, potentially in an emergency situation, and that information may be different from what you have on your normal computer at home. So having a cheat sheet handy would have been handy for me.
Man, I do that when I'm at home because on some rare settings that I only make every few months or so, I need to change everything over to do like capture SSTV or something, and I'm not normally set up for those kind of modes. I've made myself a list now because I'll know that I'll miss a setting in the radio or one other thing. And you talk about overcoming challenges, and I had a challenge on my Winter Field Day even when I was not on the road. So I want to show you real quick, if Andy will allow me a moment. I made my first contact, and then my my radio went and said, "Oh no, you're sorry, your SWR is off the scale. You're not going to operate at all." I'm like, I don't even know how I made the contact when I went to investigate and found that I had critters chasing after my coax. This was totally no bueno. But I was able to get it swapped out, and I was able to get it swapped out. And at the end of the day, I made 43 contacts.
Nice.
Just love the way that World Radio League shows this. Just U.S. and Canada, but that's okay. I was really happy with that. One of the things that really surprised me though was 43 contacts in the World Radio League logger, and I didn't even break the top 100, which is really weird compared to other contests I've done. So it just goes to show how super popular it was.
Yeah,
this time.
It was a big deal for us. We'll go into some of our own stats here in just a little bit on what the partnership leaderboard kind of looked like. In fact, I can share that here in just a little bit. But
Jim, real quick, if you don't mind, Andy,
Not at all.
Jim, that's a
Yeah.
perfect example. You wouldn't have known that had been issued, or you had an issue until maybe a day or two later when you decided to go operate again. If you had not went and checked that out for some reason,
Yep.
so yeah, it's good to have those type settings and things in place that it can remind you when you need to do that. And so that's one of my I'll call it my field tip, winter field day tip number one is have those cheat sheets available for yourself for changing up of radios.
Yeah.
That's a big lesson learned for me this
And,
year. And I spent like 2 hours literally trying to get the radio to connect. Like I finally just gave up. I said, I'm done. It's like I'm not doing slow scan apparently this year. But our goal is probably an objective next year is to send slow scan. That's where I wanted to go back to that real quick was that we're going to change.
cool.
That's one of those objectives we're going to look at doing. And we'll have the if you can copy the Winter Field Day Bear logo in our little QSL, or the slow scan
Nice.
television image next year. So
Yeah.
that'll be cool. So anyway,
That's awesome.
That'd be fun.
That's
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would even suggest for folks, if you're going to get involved in a big event, walk around and do a check of your station. Just make sure the cables are hooked up and all the
Yeah.
basic things before you really get into sitting down for a session. Because I would have caught that if I'd just gone outside
Yep.
and taken a look.
Absolutely.
Check my stuff from time to time.
And I'll
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'll
Sorry,
also
Andy, I know
say
you-
that. Oh, you're good. No, I'll also say that after going through this whole cat control development process, I feel your pain on radio to computer connections. It is insane to get all the bugs in every model worked out, and of course we're still in beta. We still don't have all the issues of everything worked out. We're having some Flex uses a virtual COM port, and so we're
Yes.
we need to get back with Jim on some testing because he's the only one on the team who owns a Flex, and so we're gonna have to get back with him, do some more testing, get a virtual comm system set up so that we can allow those Flex radios to be connected as well. But it's a challenge to get all that together, and it's been quite a process. There's so many different ways to do it. We are using Hamlib, and there's you can use this command, but you don't want to use that one because it's just like a one-time command. It doesn't open a port, or you can open a port, and that will keep the connection open, or you can send low-level commands. Anyway, there's all these different ways to do it, and you just have to from a development side, it's a challenge working through all those to figure out exactly what the best
I
way
have to go into my
do it.
ICOM 705 and turn on DTR. I believe it is, or RTS, one of the two. I have to turn one of the two on in my ICOM when I'm connecting to that because it doesn't do the direct cat connection for me across there for some reason. It also needs that included. So yeah, it's a lot of different settings, and it's hard to remember from radio to radio. So for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
And then the other point,
a lot of times it's literally radio to radio. Like not all the Azus work the same way. Not all
No.
the ICOMs work the same way. You can't even just go by brand.
Very true.
yeah, we had one guy doing some of the beta testing for us tell us he's having an issue with his radio, and it was just it was one of the standard models, and so he was gonna see if it was his if he was just not configuring it correctly, or if he's supposed to be getting back with me soon to let me know which way it was. But like Jim said, it's radio to radio, and we don't have the money to test every single model. So
Well, if you need help
but
with the Flex
other
radio,
point-
let me
yeah.
know. If you need help with the Flex radio, let me know.
I may be in touch with you very soon on that. The other point I was going to make is that your point about having all the right equipment is very, very all the right equipment and know how it all works. That's very, very true. I went out and did a POTA activation. In fact, it's the video that I released. You can kind of see what was going on that day when I released that how to POTA activation video. I went out there and I took 2 radios and just threw some extra connectors in, just on a whim, and got out there. And the first radio I think I had an issue with the power cable, so that didn't work. The second radio I plugged it in, and that one worked, but I had a problem with the antenna connection. I didn't have the right. It was like the 2 BNC connectors were the same. They were the same connector, and so I didn't have anything to bridge across them. So thankfully, I had the connector in my backpack and was able to pull it out like 2 connectors put together too. Anyway, it was just one of those things where I was very glad I had redundancy and extra gear with me, because it's very handy whenever you run into a problem to have.
I think
that
any
in
ham
your
who would
pack
say,
along with
I think any ham who has said I've gone out and never left anything behind would probably be a liar, because I think we've all gone out and forgot. Oh, I don't have the microphone. I don't have coax. I got everything out here, but I don't have the antenna. I mean, it can always be something that the cable that goes between the computer and the radio or something. It's like we've all been there in those shoes at one point or another.
I've been out with friends and we left a power cable on a different island and we were going to trying to operate. So I totally get that.
For sure.
That's funny.
And Andy, do you want to go on to the Winter Field Day stats?
Yeah. I'm just pulling that up here. So let's cover
Awesome.
our stats here from our leaderboard.
Yes.
So we actually had 1,040 people enroll in this contest. 17,586 contacts logged, and I know that's really not that big of a deal compared to the stats that you were sharing earlier, but for us, that's a huge uptick from previous years, previous contests. And so we were really glad to be able to partner with you guys, and a lot of the marketing we kind of did together really helped with that. We had a quick shout out to our top three placers on the board: NE5TX, W8FW, and W2PE. Were the top three on the World Radio League leaderboard. And then we had this top 10.
I love seeing the clubs because
this is the map of all the participants that were on the air. Let me click the see full map button. If you see this all over the world, Europe, North America, we had some in South America, Indonesia, Australia. They were all over the place signing up for this thing. So it was really awesome to see that. And you zoom in on the U.S. here, and it's just absolutely packed. We had
Andy,
operators there.
Can you give us a little bit of detail, the difference between like yellow or red or purple? Because you see some down in Australia, and you see some people over there like Europe or Middle East, and I'm just curious if those are people that were just participating that maybe were contacted, or are those actually people that were participating and doing something in those parts of the country as well that we didn't see or know about, but you had them logged into the Winter Field Day contest on your side?
So honestly, to be real honest with you, I think we had a discussion about this, and if I recall correctly, the colors, I think we set it to randomize the colors, I believe, just to make the map look really nice here. But I think we're planning on using that feature later. The colored pins to specify different operations, but I think it was I think we set it to randomize. Jim, do you remember, were they randomized, or did we set them that way by operating?
I want to say
category.
I want to say randomized.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Okay,
and then these.
I didn't know maybe it was home
versus.
I didn't know if it was home versus outdoor, maybe mobile units, that sort of thing. Yeah. Maybe it had been color charted that way.
Some of these stations here, over here in the Middle East, a couple of them, not all of them, but a couple of them, like I would say like maybe 3 or 4 of these pins were our developers just testing different things out and making sure everything was working. But the majority of them are not. There was only maybe 3 or 4 pins that are, but everything else is people who signed up, enrolled. So. And then of course we had, here's our statistics page. This is kind of over across bands, how that all looked. Our top band of course was 20 meters, 7,037 contacts. And then our top mode, of course, single sideband. For some reason, the split single sideband, lower sideband, and upper sideband. So we'll do some work on that to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Oh, sure.
Next time around. And then this is QSOs per hour. This is really neat. This is the starting hour and the ending hour of the contest. And so it just you can see kind of a graph of how throughout those 30 hours how that progressed. So it's got a really neat visualization that we were able to put together.
Yeah, that's really good, because you see between about 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock, it really went down. Yeah. And it'd be kind of curious to be able to go back, and it may take a little bit of work, and I'm probably not the one to do it. Jim might is look at band propagation around that time and to see if something changed during those hours, because I know there was a little bit of band propagation changing and some things going on in certain parts of the country about that time that people were I could hear talking about over the air. And so how that kind of correlated with some of the maybe times around that, and if there was just something happening during that time, that's kind of interesting to see that overall.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like there was definitely a dip in, and honestly, I think let's see here about 0, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. That's about 2 o'clock in the morning Central. 8 o'clock is.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay.
about 2 in the morning Central. So that's that's like middle of the night. That's like early morning.
Middle of the night.
Everybody's
Okay.
gone to bed about then. So that's probably one of the
That's
things.
okay. That's
One
how
of the
that would
reasons.
correlate. Okay.
There's probably 2 guys on. There's probably about 5 guys on there, and one of them contacted the other 4 here at whatever time this is. The last
Right.
5 guys standing.
That's awesome. Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, so other than that, yeah, it really these data visualization. We had a lot of discussion about what we were going to visualize, how we were going to put it together, and this honestly, this QSOs per hour is I hadn't gone back and looked at this too much after the contest ended, but that's a really neat visualization of
It is.
when
That's
things
awesome
were the
stuff.
most active, and that's really neat to see. And then so if you were operating, if you want to make sure you have your objectives checked. If you want to go back and make sure you have all your objectives checked. Looks like I don't think I completed any objectives. Isn't that terrible? I didn't complete any of the objectives this year.
I didn't either.
I did copy the winter field day
anyway,
bulletin,
yeah,
and
if
I
you
sent
wanna
a
make
win link
sure-
message. So
Yeah.
There you go.
If you want to make sure that any of our listeners want to make sure you have your score multipliers calculated, you can go to your logbook and go over to that objectives page and check those objectives off. So,
and they can still make those
I have to
changes.
say,
I think it'll still show up if they make those changes. I believe they can't log any
Okay.
more contacts, since we're out of the window. But I think they can still check off objectives and update their score. So,
Okay, thank you. Good to know.
yeah.
I have to say it was super easy to download my ADA file and just take it right over to the Winter Field Day site and upload it. So if you haven't done that yet, it's just download the file, go over to Winter
Boom.
Field Day, answer a few simple questions, and put it in the file, and you'll be you'll help the group get past the 300,000 QSO list, which is a hell of a
Yes.
goal.
Yes, absolutely it is. And
I'll
you're
drop
right.
that.
So,
I'll
yeah,
drop
just-
that log submission link. Actually, it looks like Jimmy already did. We dropped the log submission link in the show notes, so that's great.
And to just say that differently, if you logged your stuff for Winter Field Day in the World Radio League logger, you still need to export it and submit
Absolutely.
it to Winter Field Day.
Yes,
Absolutely.
please do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it
Definitely.
is super
We were not
easy. It was super easy to be able to go through and export the ADIF and upload it to the Winter Field Day site. I did it myself just to test and see how it was, and it was like it couldn't be more simple if you wanted. So it was very good. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I
so
agree.
just to stress that point, we are not the end all Winter Field Day team over here behind World Radio League. We are their live scoring leaderboard. We partnered with them to do that very thing, is to be the live scoring leaderboard. Other than that, you guys still need to export your logs, submit them to Winter Field Day. We want to help them get over their goal there. So
Absolutely. We appreciate that.
We did absolutely, yeah. We did have a huge uptick in users. I think we gained over 1,000 users that weekend.
Wow.
That right around there when people were signing up, prepping for Winter Field Day. We had a very large uptick in signups. So thank you guys for partnering with us, for doing such a great job of promoting us and getting the word out that we were partnering on that. That was awesome.
Well, thank you for.
It's great to work with you, Marvin.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you guys for putting that contest quotes. I'm going to say air quotes on contest. It's not really a contest, but as you have to list it under your contest fields, putting winter field day event together for us and being able to do that. Again, I'm kind of a founding member of that World Radio League, and I've kind of believed in it from the very beginning of what James is doing.
We
And
appreciate it.
it is a great. I use it for all my mobile applications when I'm traveling and making my HF contacts. And it is a great program for that, and I
Yeah.
love it. And I like the
And this
fact
is
that
the
you've
this
got
is
that.
the first.
I like the
Go
fact you
ahead.
got that new integration in there. That's going to be huge as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you're
It's a really
offline, and
big
you
one.
can just resync when you come back online. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys have made it so simple. So
Yeah, and we do have a desktop app coming, by the way, that will include all those integrations in that, and that will be an offline app that will, desktop app, similar to the mobile app that'll sync when you get back online. This contest was one of the first ones where we really promoted operating from the mobile app during the contest as well. So
okay,
that worked out really well. Because users are able to. We added the contest log to the mobile app, and they were able to operate the contest. Web app or mobile app there. Marvin, you mentioned some changes you wanted to discuss later that from in 2025 that maybe you were going to make moving forward.
2026.
what's yeah.
What's the scoop there?
So one of the things, like I said, being able to add some slow scan television, changing up our objectives a little bit. Most of them will probably stay relatively about the same. We may change the point assigned to it or something like that. But we're really trying to, one is improve our back end where we are able to give you that log submission, um, a more friendly, easier way for you to be able to we can have integrations with things like maybe your ADF or whatever. But
Yeah.
um, we want the end user experience for submitting a log to be more informative. We want people to be able to have more information about how to do that, because people say, "Well, I might upload my ADIF, but then it's like, well, do I need ADIF or Cabrillo?" And then people say, "Well,
Yeah.
I still paper log." Well, there's tools out there that we're going to try and put in our site that say, here's a way to convert your paper log into a text or an ADI file of some sort. You're going to have to go
Wow.
retype the
Okay.
information in, but our whole goal is to get really people. I hate to say it. I always have a notepad when I'm operating with a pen handy, typically most of the time anyway. And I like to write those quick call signs down I might miss or I'm trying to listen for. But we don't want people. We don't take paper logs, and so we're trying to get more people into using logging programs because I love the integration. I like to be able to use them. It makes my life a whole lot more simpler. And you take out the human error correction out of it a little bit by adding that computer logging program, because you're not having to copy W0 MET. It's like M0. Maybe it was Bravo Echo Tango or something. Maybe you couldn't read your own writing, or you just miscopied it or something. Um, but so we really want to enhance the end user experience and make it easier for them for submitting logs and understanding that process a little bit. We're going to change the website up just a little bit and provide maybe a little bit more area to put some videos and some training that we want people to be able to learn
Nice.
how to navigate or how to register for a winter field day site. I'd like to enhance the Winter Field Day map a little bit for registering for Winter Field Day. A lot of people have had issues. We have to go through, and I don't know how many I did this year, but I know between my brother and I, oh my gosh, I can't even throw a number out there, but I will say it's probably nothing less than probably 75. So when you do your registering for Winter Field Day site, we have a longitude and latitude that we ask you to put your uh, Winter Field Day location in. And the reason we use longitude and latitude is because if you go out to a park, let's say I'm going to use an example of a prior park I used to be at called Sharp Springs Park. It's in Tennessee. And, that address may have like an address of 50 Jefferson Pike. Well, if I just type in 50 Jefferson Pike, people are not going to necessarily know. I mean, if they use GPS to get there, it might get them to that point, and they don't necessarily know latitude and longitude either. But if you want a more precise location inside that park at a Pacific shelter, we're going to have to try and find ways to put more detailed information, like you're going to be at shelter A or shelter 1. versus
Yeah.
maybe just putting an address or keeping the longitude and latitude. But the problem with longitude and latitude is that people will forget to put on the longitude that minus in front of it. And they'll then write me a couple
Yeah.
days later and say, I don't find my site over here in, let's say Tennessee. I don't find my site on your register in your site somewhere. He's like, what's going on? Why isn't it there? And I'll go look it up, and it's like, well, it's because it's in, in Bangladesh
China
somewhere or
or
something.
yeah.
It's in the middle of China, and it's like I go in, it's like correct. It's like, oh, you need a negative in front of the 107, and so therefore now you're back in Tennessee where you should be. So we have to go through and do a lot of that back end correction and approvals, and so I'm trying to also take some of that automation out of it so I can have more free time to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And one of the big things we're going to do is probably create I'm going to call it a help desk. I don't know the exact email. It might be support at Winter Field Day. It might be help desk at Winter Field Day. But we're going to create a more of a help desk type integration somehow that you can hopefully create a portal on our website that you can log into, give us the information that you're needing, and we're going to try and create more of a user-friendly response back. Right now, it's all generated through our WFDA at winterfieldday.com email. And I want to be able to have more of a help desk integration with people to log into a portal, give us more information what they're looking for or what's going on. And so we can respond back to them. And then also I can have more accountability for who's handling that ticket. Has that ticket been responded to? How long is it sitting there? I try and get people back within 24 to 48 hours. But like this weekend, I left on Thursday and I had to start emailing people that were emailing to say, hey, we're currently in Hamcation. We're out for the weekend. There's nobody else to really handle the emails because both myself and W4PS are the ones that answer those emails. We'll get back to you early next week. Well, they're probably wanting to submit their Winter Field Day log now. I know there's a couple of them that have issues out there right now that have been emailed out. And I was like, well, we need time to sit there and look through that. And obviously, Jim knows being a Hamcation, we just don't have the time to sit here and spend hours going through that when you're busy with doing, this type of weekend. So I want to be able to have more of accountability and have some other people I can assign to that. And have some other developers helping do our back end stuff so we can actually expedite the process of processing our scores a little quicker too, and maybe getting more detailed information. We're hoping to have a little more graphics, maybe like a pie chart that you can see of like the number of QSOs or maybe the number of states that you made contact with in like a pie chart. It said, hey, 100% of my contacts was in Montana. I had 10% of my contacts were in Kentucky, something like that. So
yeah. So, question for you: I haven't looked at the activity, the site map that you were talking about very much. I haven't been able to get out to any of those sites, and so I haven't looked at it really close. Have you thought about integrating Google like a Google Maps API into there where you can like position exactly where you are on an aerial map and drop a pin there?
That's kind of hoping. That's one of my goals that we're kind of hoping to look at doing. So you can, like some of the other programming maps you got there, you just go and drop a pin where you're at, and then it will kind of save it somehow, and we can do it. So it takes a lot more back end development within the web. Some web developer to do that. I'm not the guy to do that. Yeah. So hopefully we can find somebody.
That's the way we have.
Somebody, hopefully
we have 3 location setting options in our logger, and that's one of them is to set your locations up is the Google Map pin.
So they can kind of set that location themselves and save it. So we're hoping that will be an easier way for people to do it, for sure.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to Winter Field Day 2026 already.
Oh, boy.
That's fantastic. And and actually, I think Winter Field Day was my first ever contest. I got my general license January of 23 last year, and I think it was like the next one of the next weekends was Winter Field Day, and I was able to participate in that. I think I only got like 60 some contacts, but I had a lot of fun, and it was a really good experience right off the bat. So, yeah,
it's kind of funny. It's like I go out it's kind of funny because I get to go out and I usually try and visit a Winter Field Day site or two. And unfortunately, I don't get to go make 200, 300 contacts because I'm out socializing and doing other things as kind of a called an ambassador for Winter Field Day. Yeah. And so I don't really get time to sit there and play myself. So maybe next year I'll just say, you know what, I'm just going to stay at home and do it myself and go find a location somewhere out and about that might be closer to home that I can do. I won't work from home, but because our whole goal is to be able to be field day, right? So, but we'll find someplace closer to home at least that I can operate. But yeah, it should be fun. Looking forward to it. And we are excited about it, and we got the ball rolling already with several meetings set up to start looking at some of the changes and things that we're going to be doing for 2026. So,
That's
thank you
great.
very much.
Terrific.
Any last thoughts on Winter Field Day before we move into Shack updates?
Just stay tuned with us. Join us on social media. We do accept, we're 501c3. We accept donations. We kind of helps fund our back end to again have that information there. I know I hand out a lot of stickers and patches here at Hamcation for Winter Field Day of things that we had. We'll try and have a booth probably at Ham Expo in Boston in August, and probably if you want to visit the POTA booth in Dayton, there'll probably be some Winter Field Day swag there as well. If you want something along those lines, and
Nice.
go out and visit hamstuffonline.com, and you can pick up Winter Field Day gear from there. And we'll have a link on our website for you where to find some of that other swag that we'll be coming out with.
Okay.
I will mention this. I'll put this out there. We are coming up with a Winter Field Day T-shirt for next year, or maybe might be short or long sleeve, depending on what you want.
Nice.
But it's going to have a very cool design about it. It's a Winter Field Day, so it might probably be a long sleeve T-shirt at least. But we're going to come up with a cool design for each year after this. And I kind of got the idea from an ice fishing derby I was at a number of years ago. And each year they had different design for the ice fishing derby, and so we're going to come up with a different design for Winter Field Day each year of what the bear might be doing. Fantastic. So we'll see where that goes. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Great. And we're looking forward to hopefully partnering with you guys in the future.
Absolutely.
And continuing on. So, Jim, did you have any last Winter Field Day questions before we go into Shack updates?
No last questions for me. I was talking with some folks in one of the local clubs I'm in. And they had a great time. They went out. They figured out that they need to make chili instead of spaghetti because it's too cold for spaghetti when they're feeding everybody. And they were in the yurt by a lake and having a great time. So thank you for enabling folks to be able to go out and do those kind of things.
Absolutely. People love it and have a great time. And I know people in Texas and Florida enjoy it a lot more than they do Summer Field Day.
I'm sure.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get into Shack updates. Marvin, do you have anything going on in your Shack or in your any projects going on, personal projects going on that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to do it. Like I kind of mentioned, building this comm trailer. It's a 7x16 foot all aluminum trailer, and I've got it. I insulated it right in all of January, so it's pretty good to go. But I'm definitely I've got a battery in there. I've got a solar panel on top and things like that. But I'm really wanting to enhance a little bit more of the build out for having an all 12 volt system put into it. And so running a generator goes into my 110 so I can keep like the air conditioner or heater running up on the roof. But at the same time, I've got 12 volts running in there and having enough power supplied to it, being able to get a converter that will change from 110 over to my 12 volt system and keep that power as well through the generator, and running like a couple places along the side of the trailer where people can plug into for 12 volt power and be able to run a computer. I've got a 12 volt. I found it. I don't know how I found it because I can't find it again right now. A 12 volt, 24 inch monitor. So like monitoring, putting a TV antenna out on the outside of the trailer to be able to monitor like weather and things like that, or maybe get some type of internet in there where I can stream weather and watch what's going on around me. So kind of make it more of an emergency comms trailer of some sort. It won't be real big. It's not going to be real huge for that, but doing all of comms because I'm kind of using it for a little bit of a not necessarily moving, but some things like that along the way. I can move stuff with it if I want to still, but. So that's my big thing I'm really working on. Probably here in the spring, I want to change some things up before Summer Field Day because I had heat go out in the middle of the night on me with my little buddy heater at Winter Field Day. So that will not happen again. I promise you that. So, but in regards to my own personal Shack, I just did get a Flex radio. It came to my door while I've been at Hamcation. So it's sitting on my in my front, probably in my living room because I'm sure that's all the wife took it. But I've got a brand new Flex radio sitting at home, and I'm excited about.
Nice.
I want to play with it a little bit more. I love playing with the one I've got currently.
Series.
This will be an 8,000 series. I've got a 6,000 on too. That is my full time job. I work for Flex Radio, so So
Oh, you
I've
do?
got
great.
Okay. Okay.
I do. So I've got
Nice.
I've got a radio that's company owned that I work and use and play with and test on a
Okay.
full time basis. But I've got my own personal one,
Do you
I've
work?
got
and that
um,
and I'm planning on using that 8600 to set up my remote site in Wisconsin. So that will be a complete full site with probably a tri-bander and a couple other dipoles that'll be available for switching, working 100 watts on for now for probably the next couple of years for sure. So yeah, a
I,
lot of
I
big
started
projects
with a
coming up.
60. I
Right.
started with a Flex 6500, and I traded my buddy for a 6700 plus some cash.
Oh yeah,
So I've got. I'm very reluctant to upgrade to the 8000 series because I can't get all the different
slices.
tuners the slices that I could get on the 6700. So I may
Yeah,
stay where I'm at, but those 8600s look good.
yeah. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. I'm really very excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of capability in
Enjoy.
that radio. And I can't really say much more than that. Company wide, but yeah, I'm going to
Yeah,
enjoy it myself
there you
and,
go.
enjoy everything
That's
that's
awesome.
coming that will be coming about it. So a lot of new stuff coming around
Well, then
that. So
I'll
for sure,
most likely be in touch with you over in the very near future about some integrations, some ways to use cat control with the Flex series if you're good
for
with
sure,
that. All right.
absolutely.
Great.
Any other things in the shack? Anything else going on?
No, those are my main big things.
All right.
I'm
Okay.
pretty much
All
a
right.
Mac user across the board. So everything I
Yeah.
try and do, I try
Yeah.
and make sure that I can do it on a Mac. So whether that's slow
Yeah.
scan television or WinLink or whatever it might be. So I'm always trying to come up with new programs and stuff that'll make that happen. So
If you have a good SSTV software for Mac, send me a link to it if you don't
I
mind.
will.
I love it.
I will do that.
Okay,
I've
all right,
got one.
awesome,
Yep,
I
it's
have
good.
one.
awesome. You have
I
one,
have
Jim?
one.
Okay, okay, great,
Black
great.
Black
Okay.
Cat
Okay,
Systems.
That's
okay.
exactly what I was going to recommend.
Yep.
Drop Jim, if you don't
Yep.
mind, drop a link in the show notes to
Yep.
that. That way we can
I will
share
do
that
that.
as well.
Here, Jim, quick
And
question. I know we're going to sidetrack for just a moment, but Jim, is there a reason to go to
no,
the
you're good.
paid version versus the free version on that? Have you found a reason?
I don't know. I haven't. I haven't. I'm not sure which even. I'm not even sure which version I'm on.
Okay, fair enough. So,
So I
Definitely,
may have paid for it just to do that because I tend to do that sometimes.
okay,
definitely not sponsored. Oh,
no.
all
No.
right. Yeah, we're not sponsored by them. Okay, so all right, Jim, what's going on in
Sir.
your shack?
So I mentioned last time I got a new 3D printer, and I've combined it with something interesting I found. I was watching a video by a guy named Jeff Geerling, and he does Pi stuff and broadcasting stuff and those kind of things. And he introduced something called Project Mini Rack, and I watched that, and I'm like, I could do something ham radio related for that. So between that inspiration and the 3D printer, I am I'm working on those things together, and I'll just leave that there for now, and hopefully in
Nice.
a future session I can share exactly what's been going on. So that's taken a lot of my time, but I got the chance to go to I mentioned earlier a POTA outing on Thursday. So I've got a slow ride back to Atlanta on Monday. So maybe Monday afternoon, I might be able to throw my 705 on the air for a little while and do some POTA. So um, hopefully by the time this is aired, I'll have already done it. But looking forward to getting out in the park if the weather holds up.
For sure.
Nice. There's
What about you, Andy? What are you doing in the shack?
I'm so glad you asked. Thank you, Jim. I've got a couple
Why,
things
you're
going on.
welcome.
I've got a couple things going on. Real quickly though, have you ever heard of Octoprint? Have you used that with any of your 3D printers?
No.
Okay. It's a you can set up like a Raspberry Pi with your 3D printer and control it. It acts like a server basically to control your 3D
Okay.
printer. And I didn't know if you had messed
Oh yeah,
with that at
yeah.
all.
Okay.
I'm considering
Oh,
I'm considering maybe trying to set that up. I've got a cheaper in 3D printer, and I would like to be able to use it like that.
Now,
But we'll see.
now that you say it, I have heard about it in a makerspace context where they had a bunch of 3D printers that needed to have kind of consistent control window for them, and they used that. But Outside of I had my own printer, so I never really have
Yeah,
engaged
yeah,
with it.
absolutely.
So
And you
familiar
mentioned,
with it, but never
yeah,
used it.
you mentioned Jeff Geerling. I actually just discovered him recently, so
Yep.
I can drop a link to his YouTube channel in the show notes for anybody who's interested in all kinds
Yep.
of nerdy Raspberry
Yep.
Pi project
Exactly.
stuff.
I got
So
a link directly to Project Mini Rack in
nice,
the
nice,
notes.
awesome, awesome. Okay,
Nice.
Yep.
so yeah, in my shack, I've got a couple of different things going on. I had somebody the other day tell me that they've got me in their ham alert, and I've been blowing them up because I've been operating a whole lot of FT8 lately. So I figured out how to use software called TeamViewer to remote into my Mac, and then with the new integration between WSJTX and World Radio League, it's really simple to log. So I never have to leave WSJTX after I get the connection pulled up. I've got one of those Wi-Fi plugs I installed in my shack, so now I can turn on my radio from anywhere in the world. I can log into my computer and pull up WSJTX and start logging contacts, and that has been a lot of fun to do. So I've been having a ton of fun with that.
Speaking of Raspberry Pi projects, I did that with my Pi and my Flex.
Oh, nice.
So I can log
That's
into
awesome.
a Pi interface, click a web button, and the radio comes on.
I've got one of these Liber computers. It's like the cheap version of a Raspberry Pi, and I've been thinking about maybe trying to set one of those up with something similar to that, possibly. I've got a lot of different projects I'd like to do at some point, but I've been considering that. I have been working with an ESP32. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those,
Yep.
but I've got an ESP32 I've been working on. It's just a little microcontroller. It's pretty powerful, to be real honest with you. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. But I've been trying to set up a remote PTT trigger so that I can use what I want to be able to do is put a switch on here. The first step is to put just a physical switch. For example, like a mechanical keyboard switch or some kind of physical switch, and key the PTT, physically from here. And then once I get that figured out, then I can hopefully be
Use a
able to
relay or
maybe set up
something,
a server or something like that, and trigger that, send that command through. It'll probably be I'm trying to use like use the hamlib library to key the PTT. So basically, I press the trigger and it sends a hamlib command to the radio to trigger the PTT. On my first attempt, I had a Python script run away and try to take over my Mac, so I had to figure out how to get that shut down. But thankfully, it didn't kill anybody, and we were able to get it pulled back together. And my radio still functions. So. And then also, I've been working. I got one of those RTL. I don't have it with me. One of those RTL SDR dongles for Christmas, and I've been trying to set that up to decode. There's a few different softwares I've been trying. If anybody has any suggestions on this, please ping me in the comments in the community somewhere. Because the softwares are like open. Some of them are open source. Some of them are just kind of outdated softwares, and they're really hard to use. But I've been trying to set up a P25 decoding software. I think it's P25 and DMR for some of our local emergency services. Like our sheriff's department, our local sheriff's department, fire departments, that kind of thing. So I want to be able to monitor those because they've gone all digital, and if you know anything about digital scanners, they can be very pricey. And so I'm trying to get that set up where all I have to use is the RTL SDR dongle and put it in my computer and decode those signals. But I've been fighting with the softwares that are available to do that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
very cool.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So not other than that, not a whole lot going on around here. But yeah, this been a lot of fun working with these with some of these new pieces of hardware. So.
Cool.
All right. Well, Marvin, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really, really appreciate it. I know you're down there in Orlando. You're kind of in not ideal circumstances. Sounds like you're in a hotel room. So we really appreciate you joining us. and making time in your busy schedule to jump on the podcast here.
Well, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me over to the podcast here. I'm really
Yeah,
excited to
yeah.
listen to this one, and we'll definitely joining this podcast as well to listen to all the others I listen to. Even besides myself, I will go back and listen to my own sometimes. So
Yeah.
appreciate you having us in here, and
Oh, cool.
glad to hop on anytime and share any other topic you want to talk about. So I'm usually
All
full of
right,
it
sounds
as
good.
Marvin,
well.
We'll keep that in mind.
What's your personal podcast, Marvin? Where
Yeah.
can we find that?
So I'm the ham radio guy. I can be found on pretty much any of the major platforms from iHeart, Spotify, Apple, Google. I'm pretty much on all of them across the board. You can also find me on Podbean. If you use Podbean at all, I'm on there. I'm in the top 30 podcasts that are for amateur radio, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Great.
And
Awesome.
you can find all the information out there. I've got over 50 episodes to go out and listen to, and so
Nice.
a lot of ranging variety of topics to listen to for sure.
Yeah, that's
Terrific.
great. All right,
Thank you.
before we wrap up, I just want to give a quick shout out to Vince VE6LK from Ham Radio Workbench Podcast. He recorded a really great intro for our podcast, and we dropped that at the beginning of episode 1. We're going to drop that at the beginning of this episode as well. And we were really glad to be able to work with him on that, and had a lot of fun. Kind of coming up with just a quick little intro clip, but it's kind of a fun little clip. So we'll drop that at the beginning. And thank you to Vince VE6LK. And speaking of Ham Radio Workbench, Marvin, you said you work for Flex Radio. Do you know? Let me try to remember. I think Mike VA3MW. I believe that's
Oh yeah. No, Mike out of Canada. He's
Okay.
one of our sales guys. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great guy.
All right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Does a lot of educational videos for us.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, he's one of the regulars at Ham Radio Workbench Podcast. So I hear him talking about Flex Radio all the time, and I did not realize that you were a part of that team. So great to make that connection. All right,
Thank you.
Marvin, where can folks reach you if they want to get in touch with you?
Easiest way is probably to reach out to me at W0MET at thehamradioguy.com. For Winter Field Day, it's WFDA, Winter Field Day Association, at winterfieldday.com. And find me on Twitter personally. You can join our Winter Field Day Discord. We do have a Discord channel out there, and a lot of people can touch base with me. I'm monitoring that. I don't say 24/7, but I'm on that thing more than I probably should be sometimes. So you can usually hit me out on there. And I've got a lot of people I make contact with on a regular basis that I touch base with on Discord. So join our Winter Field Day Discord. You can find that link on the top of our Winter Field Day site. And again, they can email me as well. Either way. So.
Awesome. And we will drop links to the Winter Field Day site and the Winter Field Day Discord in the show notes of this episode.
Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, Jim. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you?
I'm on N4BFR and a bunch of socials. You can obviously I'm Jim at hamradioprep.com if you want to drop me an email, and just check out all the Ham Radio Prep sites and ways to get in touch, and you'll find me.
Nice.
Search my call, you'll find me.
Yeah. All right. All right. If you want to get in touch with me, you can ping me, Andy, at worldradioleague.com. If you have a question about World Radio League, if you want to get in touch with me directly, ping me, Andy, at n0apx.com. You can go to my website, n0apx.com. My socials are most of them have N0APX in the handle at somewhere. I've got, I think, my primary one is X. I think I'm at N0APXHam if I remember the handle correctly. So, all right. Well, thank you guys all for being on here. Thanks, Jim, for jumping out of the Ham Fest to come and do this evening. Thank you guys for being on, and I hope to see you on here next time. And we'll say 7-3 to everybody.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Marvin.
Yeah, keep signal strong. 73, guys. Have a great night.
7-3.
Good night.